What's up YouTube? My name's Quickie, welcome back to the channel. I've been playing with Chuck again. It is like having a completely new machine. Recently did an upgrade on him where he's now got Make Pretend 3-phase and whatnot. And I'm having to learn it all again. All my speeds and feeds are now different and the tooling works different. I've been using these little carbide insert tools. And they are dead good, but before I always found I was getting like a bit of a dodgy finish and whatnot. And you had to go like real ginger, and then, you know, sometimes you'd have to polish it up with a bit of emery or stuff afterwards. But now it is just cutting lovely. It really, really is. Still can't use the top 2 speeds. And there was a few people that chipped in saying that I need a bigger inverter. And they could well be right, I don't know. But you know, I paid for this one. It's on, it's working, so I'm using it for now. At some point I may do another upgrade and just get a bigger inverter to it. The idea being that it takes more effort to get the damn thing going to start off with, and then once it's going, it's easier to keep it going at the same rate. It's just that initial oomph. And basically that's the problem that I've got. But you know, it is what it is. We've worked with what we've got. And to be fair, he is quite capable, so... But I am proper chuffed with it. The finishes I'm getting are brilliant. Right, let me show you what I've got. Right, so the ever elusive Jack rocked up yesterday, and he left this where I could get my hands on it and whatnot. This is my shock spring. He's powder coated it all, and he's done a lovely job, it has to be said. I don't know why, but I really like it when stuff comes back coated. Look at this. Look at that. All shiny. Yes, it's black. No, it's not orange. It's just going to tie in, I think, with like the end result. So I'm keeping him wrapped up at the minute. Simon Roll should be down later on today, and he's bringing the rest of the shock with him and his spring compressor. So we should be able to get this all put back together and shove it back on the bike. But I don't want to scratch it or anything. So he's staying there out of the way. But today, I'm mucking about with these. Actually, I'm not sure which one I'm going to do first. I really do quite like that one, but I do quite like that one as well, but that one is going to be way noisier than this one, so I vote we go with this one first. I got my mandrel bends. Everything's back on the rear end of the bike, so, you know, we're basically good. I'm probably going to shove the back wheel in just so the swing arm sits where it needs to sit and all that sort of stuff, and then we can have a crack at making an exhaust. Or 2. I think when Simon gets here, I'm going to have him sit on it, because that way I can set my foot pegs and everything else when, you know, where I want them to be, and blah blah blah, and it'll all be good and cushy. Because then I can trim down this thread that comes out the bottom of the master cylinder and stuff as well. So, you know, that'll all be good. But somehow we have got to get him in there. See, I want it closer than that, which means some of that thread has got to go. But I think I need to muck about. That's kind of where I want it to be, straight up and downy and really close to the swing arm. I want it like that. I've just got to get that bit to join onto that bit somehow. And I think I'm going to start by chopping that bit up. Actually, I might just try and rotate it and see how we go there. I could do that, couldn't I? Yeah, let's do that. Right, this is where I think the problems are starting. This is my collector. So if you look at it, it kicks up here. See what I mean? It's done on an angle. So, which is a really odd thing to do actually. This piece of tube is obviously dead straight. All this like reducer that's welded to the end of it, that's all dead straight. So this must have been cut at an angle. So that's actually going to be elliptical. Then it's been squashed out and it's been welded onto it, which I don't get. I mean, it does sort of send it this way, but the trouble is it also puts a kink in it up. So as you look at it from, I'll get a picture and I'll show you. But as you're looking at it from the side, it's not straight. It's just at a stupid bloody angle. And it looks a bit poo, if I'm honest. So I think the first thing to do is I'm going to have that bit off. I'm going to reuse it, but I'm going to set it straight. The link pipe that goes up to the exhaust, whichever one, is going to be made out of this stuff. So he just slips on, that is like quite a snug fit. So I can slot this, the outer one, onto the link pipe, and then we'll just have a clamp round here, but I want that to start off going straight. So I'll have a little bit of that off, we'll slot it, I'll cut that off, cut it square, and then he can go back on. And at least that way we're starting off on a straight run and it will look a lot better from the side. I want it to try and follow this frame rail if I can, but up underneath, because the bottom of the engine is level with that. You know, it would just be nice to have this at the same sort of rate as well. And I can't just turn it and have the kink kind of out from the back, because it's sort of set on a corner, if that makes sense. So whichever way you turn this, there's always going to be a kink to it. So I think that's going to be my first thing. Right, where's the angle grinder? Oh, I need a brew. Right, I was going to be welding up the collector, but the man with the pixelated face has turned up again. This is Simon Rolls, and he's a bit of a suspension guru. He's been on the courses and all that stuff. How long have you been doing suspension for? It's quite a while, isn't it?
Yeah, about 7 years.
Yeah, about 7 years. So anyway, he's bought his toys down there. I still haven't made my fork spring compressor. I did John's and I've sent that off. But I feel a bit like the poor man's cousin now. Look at this. It does forks as well as shocks. And instead of using a thread that I've got, he's got a little bottle jack down there with different inserts. So that one's for the shock, and there's this one that locates in a fork. And it can basically do both. It's all adjustable and everything else. And it's actually quite a simple thing. So I'm sorry, John, I don't think I'm going to have one the same as yours. I think I'm going to have one of these. Because it means I can also change forks, rear springs and stuff. So size already is completely stripped and serviced, the rear shock. And it is all cleaned up lovely. It is looking very, very good. He has got some pictures of some proper ropey looking shocks and everything that he's going to send through, just so you can see what's what. But I was always curious. I've never had one of these apart, ever. So, correct me if I'm wrong. You did explain it, but I probably missed some stuff. So essentially, in this bit here, there's a piston, yep, which has got seals and, yep, and a shim stack in here as well. All the seals in this were fine, you were saying?
Yeah, the seals were good, the bushes were good.
Cool, okay.
Very low mileage.
Yeah, I mean, there's hardly any marks on it at all anyway.
Even the oil was pleasant to smell.
But apparently there's a piston in here with obviously seals and everything else. There is a shim stack, which you can think of as like a stack of washers, different profiles, thicknesses, yeah, sizes, all that sort of stuff.
Regulates the oil flow through the shop.
So that just controls how much oil goes. And you can reorder all that stuff and change the way the shop works.
Depending on what kind of...
But that's a racer thing, isn't it, yeah, really? It's not like a road thing.
Don't need it on the road.
And then in here, there's this. This is filled with 10 bar.
Yeah,
you said
a bladder in there with 10 bar of nitrogen.
right. So 10 bar of nitrogen in the bladder. So obviously, as you charge that up, that squashes down on the oil. But obviously, as you move in the shock, the gas can compress, but the oil can't really because it's a liquid.
No, so you're providing a resistance for, for the shock.
Okay.
The spring.
And that's just channeled through here. So we've got the adjuster there for compression damping.
Yeah. And
rebounds down at the bottom there.
It's just like a funny looking fork.
I'll get. He's got a blown up picture of. Was it your dirt bike shop, wasn't it? But it's all sort of took apart so you can see what's what. But it's quite interesting. I've never been inside one of these, and I probably never will do because, you know, it's all got to be regassed and everything else at the end of the day as well. So we got all that lot, and I've got something very shiny here, which Jack dropped off. So this is my spring. All we've done is had this shock blasted and powder coated.
Cool.
That looks all right, doesn't it?
Yeah, nice and shiny.
Bit better than it did do. So we're going to get the man to work his magic and stick it all back together again, and then we can stick it on the bike. And I can badger him with questions whilst he's doing it. Ideal. Right, so, well, you've done the course and everything else.
Yeah.
And this is what you were using on the course, and they were selling them at the time, so you just grabbed one?
Yeah, yeah.
That sort of makes sense, really, doesn't it? So you can move this collar up and down, obviously dependent on the shock length, or fork length as well. But you also, you got a little thingy here, which basically bolts onto the side so you can stand your fork in it when you're doing oil and everything else.
Yeah.
It's quite handy, isn't it?
Yeah.
You bolt it down, it's literally just a bottle jack. And there ain't really much to it. So how much does one of these go for?
It's about 200 quid.
200 quid.
Well, you're doing the course, then, you know, they get you.
Well, yeah, captive audience and all that, isn't it, I suppose? Right, so go on then.
Right.
How'd you stick it all back together again?
I don't know, I generally look on YouTube.
So, I mean, there's obviously an order all this has to be done in.
Yeah. Most of the time it'll only go back in one way because the diameters of the spring.
Yeah, so one end's a little bit smaller than the other.
Yeah.
So there's a washer on the bottom, then the spring, and then you've got that step washer thing.
Yeah, this is like a collar, so it will sit inside. And you've got your preload adjustment, which will drop in. And sometimes that'll be two nuts at the top where you'll get a thread.
Yeah, well you get the,
So you put it together, then you'll wind the nut down.
Yeah.
Whereas on this one, it's like, it's a C-spanner.
And when you're putting all this together, presumably you've got it on the softest setting on preload, just makes it easier, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
okay.
You're not fighting too much against the spring.
Yeah.
Get that in there just to protect the coating. Line this up. Try not to get caught on the bump stop.
And you've got different inserts that you can shove in there as well, haven't you? So if the shock is a different diameter, presumably that's like the biggest one. You just have a collar that goes in just to, you know, take it all. Because I suppose as snug a fit as you can get, you want really, don't you, when you're putting it together?
Yeah, that way that you don't get stuff moving around.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's no nuts and bolts holding it together. It's just collars that lock under tension of the spring.
Yeah.
That's it. See, that's a scary thought, isn't it?
And you consider that, you know, you're sat on this and you're riding at whatever speed you ride, you know.
Yeah.
70 mile an hour, officer. And then
that's literally all it is.
Yeah. This is the thing that
and that's it all back together.
Helps you go better in the corner. There you go.
Get on. See, that was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. It's a lot easier. I am tempted to make one of them. I am tempted. But literally all I'll be doing will be changing springs and doing forks. But I suppose it does forks as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I mean, you need a very expensive machine to put the gas and oil in.
Yeah, so that, you do all the stripping it out, you can put the service kits in it, change springs, all that sort of stuff, but then you take it to a fella who's got A very expensive machine that does all the regassing and oiling and everything else, yeah?
He does work for race teams.
So this is like, you say it's a bladder.
Yeah.
To get the gas in there, Schrader valve on there?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
That came to me with an end cap.
Yeah.
Which proved that it had not been done before, really. Unless someone had bothered to buy a new end cap and put it in.
Right.
The end caps was basically one and done.
Oh, right, one time use and that's it.
In.
Right, okay, cool.
So it will look like it's rounded over.
Yeah,
but
okay.
It's actually a cap.
Get on. All right, then.
Then that's it.
Sweet.
Ready to play.
Does look better with the rear shock in it, doesn't it? I do like that. And it sits lovely in the middle too. Nothing is torqued up, it's all just, you know, done up basically. Can I beg a favour? Can I get you to sit on it just so I can set rear sets, you know, the levers and all that stuff? It's just easier to do with another person basically. All right? Right, so rear brake, where would you want it?
Me personally about there. A bit lower.
A little bit lower? Right, hang on. So wind that up. How's that?
Yeah, it's good for slight angle.
Yeah? Okay, cool. What about gear shift?
Yeah, a bit lower.
A little bit lower as well.
Yeah, you're on race shift, aren't you?
Well, yeah, but the lever's still got to be in the same place, isn't it, really? Try that.
Yeah, right.
About there?
Yeah.
Sweet. Just gives me a frame of reference then. Right, let's just nip him up. I'm going to have to remake this connecting rod, I think. Which is no biggie. But at least it's set stuff where it needs to be. Happy days. I would say bounce up and down on it and see what the shock does, but we've got a jack underneath it, haven't we? You see what I mean about these need to come up a bit. It's not horrible, but just that little bit more.
I don't know. It's...
How tall are you?
6'1",
6'1", so you're, yeah, I'm 6'1".
Yeah.
So, I don't know, I'm still undecided. I'm remaking them, whatever, so I don't really care.
Depends on how aggressive a rider you are. I know people that lean over the yokes, but I know people that sit upright, even on a sports bike.
Well, that's true.
You know, to one guy, he's got his face over here.
Well, that said, Crispy is a proper short arse. So you're the same sort of size as me. I've had Jamie sitting on it as well, and he's going, oh, I don't know, it could be up a little bit. So he's undecided. Put a short fella like Crispy on, he's going to be going, yeah, it needs to come up. I don't know, we'll see what's what.
Yeah.
Mega. Thank you for that, D. So with just going back to it then, how often, like your own bike,
Yeah.
how often would you service your shocks? So
depends on how much it gets used, but if it's a regular use, 2 years.
So like a daily driver, it'd be, and
Daily
what would
driver,
that be? Just
more.
like bushes and oil and...
You check the bushes, same as anything. There's no real wear.
Yeah,
Don't
you
worry
don't
about
need to
it,
change
just
it.
oil.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep the oil right. And
You empty the oil out of these sometimes, it absolutely stinks, doesn't it? So what about the rear shock then? Because I have to admit, bikes that I've had, I've done before, it's quite happy, but because I don't know anything about shocks and I haven't got the stuff to regas it and all that stuff, I tend not to do it as much. But it should be the same, right?
it should be the same. You want the front and the rear to work well, you service them at the same time.
Yeah.
You don't, changing your tyres. Yeah, you try to do them at the same time.
Yeah, okay.
But, it's still oil, it still gets smashed. There's no reason why the oil in the back is not going to get smashed just as much as the oil in the front.
No, so it's going to degrade the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the other thing is with
you
the...
will lose gas as well. Over time, the gas will escape.
It will.
So you end up basically riding on the oil and the spring.
Ah, right. The other thing is the roller bearings and everything else in your swing arm, you know, the rising rate suspension linkage and all that stuff. Yeah. You can have the best shock in the world, but if those roller bearings are knackered, it just ain't going to work, is it? No. He was telling me a story. He's had one fellow who's dropped a bike off to have the rear shock and the forks and everything else done, and he's took the shock out and the swing arm stayed exactly where it was.
Yeah, the linkage was a little bit stiff.
Yeah, I mean, these are all going to get swapped out with new anyway. But it's worth sort of doing all at the same time anyway, isn't it, really? For the cost of, if you think you spend, well, how much to, okay, say you've got forks and a shock. If you was, you know, for this bike, if you was to service the whole lot, what would that go for roughly?
Well, if you're just talking like oil and gas and oil. And
your time and
my time and like loose or ride in, ride out? No,
I'll drop it off to you.
Yeah. Well, you've got a sap as well on the back end of that, wouldn't you? So you're probably looking a couple £100.
Right, okay. But if you spent all your 200 quid, but your bearings is knackered, you're not going to see the benefit of any of that. No, not really.
Same as your spring rate. You know, if you're 15, 16 stone, the springs in these things are designed for a 12-stone rider.
Yeah.
So any amount of banging down a preload is not really going to help.
If you sit Steve-O on it, you definitely need another spring.
Yeah, and new bearings straight away.
I don't know if they do truck springs that big. But then what was the other thing? Was that Simon is the fella who's going to be doing a setup for whoever wins the bike. So, and it does make a massive, massive, massive difference, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like you can take a bike that's, because I mean they're set up from, well, not a custom bike, but if you just went out and bought a bike, they're set up for middle of the road, caters for this weight to that weight to whatever. Yeah, and it's not horrible.
If you go to a showroom and do a bounce test on them, they're not set up.
No.
You know, because everyone rides differently.
Well, that's the other trick, isn't it?
Yeah, and also it's like carrying a pillion. It's like putting a caravan on a Ferrari.
Well, yeah. That is very true, actually. That is very true.
Because that will affect the way that the bike handles.
Yeah.
You can't ride the same way that you would ride solo if you've got 60 kilos on the back or 70 kilos on the back.
Well, it's like you're similar weight and height to me.
Yeah.
But your bike would be set up totally differently.
Yeah.
But spring rates would be about the same because it's more...
We can work around it.
Yeah.
But if you've got springs which are underweight, by cranking down the preload, all that's going to do is give you a sore ass or a sore shoulders.
Yeah.
Because it will kick you out of the seat.
Yeah. I must admit, the only thing I'm really going to do, if I do make one of them, is change springs. But that in itself is worth doing.
Yeah. But also, making one of those, it'll allow you to split an upside down shock a lot easier and change seals.
Yeah, very true. Sweet. Right then, whilst I've got you here, opinions. I'm going to have that off, so this will sit in a little bit more. But...
You know what they say about opinions.
Right, is that one? Like that. So that'll come out and then dip in and go up to the collector, which I'm chopping up at the minute.
Right.
Or something like that, which is shorter and probably louder.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty offensive.
It is going to be obnoxious.
Yeah.
But which do you reckon looks best?
Going by...
That one? Or slightly bigger like that?
I would go with something big.
Go with this one. This one does have more wadding in it, but if you look at the hole in that, and you look at the hole in that...
Yeah.
It's going to change things, isn't it?
It is, but...
And there is bugger all wadding in this at all.
The larger one is more in keeping with the design of the bike.
See, I reckon that's just going to look better. I don't know, we'll mock it up and we'll see what's what. Sweet, well thank you ever so much for your help today, mate. Right. It is dead good. I do like that. It does look better with a rear shock in it, for real.
You can move it around then.
Yeah, I could wheel it about without having a bit of bar in the back of it. I am chuffed with that. He's done me proud on that one. So's Jack with the powder coating. Does look good. does look really good. I've just got to watch it now, make sure I don't scratch it or anything. It was a good little natter we had actually, because I've never been inside a rear shock. I've never pulled one apart. I know kind of how they work, but he's done all the courses and stuff, so he properly knows what he's talking about, and he's got all the gear and all that stuff. But I must admit, with the bikes that I've had in the past, I'll quite happily change the forks and seals and, all the oil and all that stuff in the front end. Never done anything with the back end, and he's seen some shockers. There's like little retaining clips and all sort of stuff buried up inside that you've got to remove to get the pistons out and everything else. And water does get in there, they do corrode. And quite often he pulls the shock apart and the oil absolutely stinks. They've just never been serviced. And with suspension, you want the front and the back to work together, which means all your bearings and stuff for the swing arm, the rising rate linkage, all that lot, has all got to be good as well for the rear shock just to be able to do its thing properly. And you do notice a big difference. I had a chat with him about coming out testing this as well. So once we got it through a dyno and we've got the rest of it all built up and it's street legal and everything else, what we're going to be doing is, I'm obviously going to be having a go on it. I haven't done all this not to. But then he's up for taking it out for a ride as well. I'm probably going to have a chat with Crispy and see if he can spare me some time, because he is a lot smaller than me. But he's quite handy on a bike, right? He used to race him as well. He raced my old bike. So he's quite handy, and he's a mechanic, so he would have that sort of sense of what's going on. And then I might shove a Steve-O on it as well, just because, he's not got a rear seat. I can't fit two people on it. So we get Steve-O on it, he can have a go. And the idea is we want to sort of set it up so we're all quite happy with the way. It's not going to be perfect for any one of us, but we should be able to get it so it's a good compromise for whoever jumps on it. That way we're not going to be too far out of the ballpark for whoever wins the bike to, a little bit of tweaking here and there, and we shouldn't be too far off. So I think that's what we're going to do. So anyway, that's where I'm going to leave it on this one. I am back in probably tomorrow and the weekend on a Saturday, because I want to get this exhaust done. I want to get it back on the bike and have it, because now stuff is in place. I can route stuff and, we're all good to go. I am going to have to make some more hangers for my little business, because I've had an order come through and there's quite a lot of empty boxes kicking around here, so I need to fill them back up again. So I've got that to get done as well. But we're getting on with the exhaust. At least one of them. If the other one follows, it follows later on. But one of them, and it's going to be my exhaust, is going on the bike this week. That's what I'm doing. So anyway, that's where I'm going to leave it for this one. Thank you ever so much for watching. I do hope you weren't staying safe. We'll see you on the next one. Laters!